Have you ever felt stuck in a relationship, wondering why they left or drifted away? Maybe you've tried everything to pull them back. Endless apologies, grand gestures, and even losing yourself in the process, only to find yourself further from them than ever. Here's the truth. Most of what we're taught about fixing relationships is flat out wrong. What if the real power lies not in chasing but in stepping back, not in fixing them but in fortifying yourself? The problem is clear. When relationships falter, we fall into desperation, giving away our power. The size of the issue? It's huge. Relationships define so much of our happiness and mental clarity. But here's the good news. There's a solution. And it's rooted in the timeless wisdom of Stoicism and strategic psychological principles. With just a few shifts in your approach, you can create a dynamic that doesn't just draw them back, but compels them to come crawling. And yes, this approach is grounded in authenticity, personal growth, and mutual respect, not shallow tricks. So how do you shift the power? How do you regain control without resorting to manipulation? The answer lies in mastering 5 transformative actions rooted in Stoic relationships. These steps are backed by dark psychology, a controversial yet fascinating framework that helps you understand the deep layers of human behavior. But remember, these techniques are not about control, they're about creating balance. Ready to discover how to make them come back, not out of pity or guilt, but because they need you. Let's dive in. Step 1. The art of emotional detachment. Pause for a moment. When was the last time you acted purely out of emotion in your relationship? Think about the consequences. Did it push them closer or create distance? The first key to drawing them back lies in mastering emotional detachment, a principle deeply rooted in Stoicism. To put it simply, detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop overreacting. Why does emotional detachment work? Here's the reality. When you're emotionally reactive, you give away your power. You allow someone else's behavior to dictate your state of mind. The Stoics knew this all too well. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Emotional detachment is strength. It creates space for you to reflect rather than react, to respond instead of lash out. Think about this. How do people feel when you're constantly over-available or trying too hard to win them back? While it's natural to want to fix things, desperation only repels. Detachment, on the other hand, creates a sense of intrigue. It communicates that you're in control of yourself, and that's attractive. So how do you apply this practically? Start by asking yourself, am I reacting to their actions, or am I staying true to my principles? When they don't text back, do you spiral into overthinking, or do you focus on what you can control? Emotional detachment requires discipline. It's about shifting your focus inward, on improving yourself, building your resilience, and finding fulfillment outside of their validation. For example, if they seem distant, resist the urge to flood them with messages or demand explanations. Instead, take a step back and focus on self-improvement. Maybe this is the time to start that fitness journey, pick up a new skill, or reconnect with friends you've neglected. When they notice you thriving without them, they'll start to question their own decisions. Let's take a closer look at why this works psychologically. People are drawn to confidence and mystery. When you detach emotionally, you're sending a powerful signal. I value myself too much to chase. This isn't about playing hard to get, it's about truly believing in your worth. And here's the twist. When you stop chasing, they start noticing. They begin to wonder, why aren't they as affected as I thought they'd be? This psychological shift is often enough to plant seeds of curiosity and regret. When you're no longer reacting, they have to confront their own feelings without the comfort of your constant attention. And when they do come back, and they often will, it's not because you begged them to, but because your detachment inspired reflection. But let's be clear. Emotional detachment isn't easy. It requires unlearning old habits and embracing a new mindset. The good news, Stoicism offers a roadmap. Begin each day with a moment of reflection. Ask yourself, what's truly in my control today? When you're grounded in this understanding, you're less likely to be thrown off by their actions. Here's a challenge for you. For the next week, practice responding rather than reacting. When they say something hurtful or don't show the attention you want, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? By exercising this restraint, you're not just regaining control over the situation, you're building an unshakable inner self. Now, imagine the ripple effects. When you're no longer emotionally reactive, how might this influence your relationships, not just with them, but with everyone in your life? How would it feel to know that you're in control, regardless of what they do? This is the essence of Stoicism. And when you master this, you don't just win them back, you win yourself back. Step 2. Reverse the power dynamic. Now that you've begun to master emotional detachment, let's talk about flipping the script. What happens when you stop trying to win them over and instead shift the power back to yourself? Reversing the power dynamic isn't about manipulation, it's about creating balance. It's about restoring a sense of mutual respect and making them realize that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. Let's start with a question. Who holds the power in your relationship right now? If you feel like you're the one constantly giving, apologizing, or chasing, the balance has tipped against you. But here's the secret. Power dynamics are fluid. They're not fixed, and they can change the moment you decide to change your behavior. So how do you reverse the dynamic? It starts with understanding a core psychological principle: scarcity and unpredictability. People value what they perceive as rare or difficult to attain. If you've been overly available or predictable, it's time to change that narrative. But how do you do this in a way that's genuine and aligned with Stoic relationships? Let's break it down. First, let's address availability. When you're always there, responding instantly, saying yes to every plan, or constantly reaching out, you unintentionally diminish your value. Think about it. When something is always within reach, do we treasure it? Probably not. But when something becomes less accessible, we start to appreciate its worth. This isn't about playing games. It's about recognizing your own value and setting boundaries that reflect it. Ask yourself, have I been too available? Have I made it too easy for them to take me for granted? If the answer is yes, it's time to create some space. For example, if they text you, resist the urge to reply immediately. Take your time, not out of spite, but to show that your life doesn't revolve around their attention. This shift alone can be incredibly powerful. When you're no longer at their beck and call, they start to notice your absence. And in that absence, they begin to wonder, what's changed? Now let's talk about unpredictability. Human psychology is wired to respond to surprises. When you're unpredictable in your actions, you become intriguing. The Stoics understood the importance of balance and the art of measured actions. As Marcus Aurelius noted, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Instead of over-explaining or overcompensating, show your growth through your actions. Here's an example. If you've always been the one to initiate plans, stop. Give them the space to come to you. If they're used to you agreeing with everything they say, offer a thoughtful counterpoint instead. This isn't about being difficult, it's about breaking patterns and showing that you're not afraid to stand on your own. When you're no longer predictable, you become someone they have to think about. And that's the key. You want them to think about you. But reversing the power dynamic isn't just about your interactions with them. It's also about your relationship with yourself. When you shift the focus inward, you naturally project confidence and self-worth. Imagine this. Instead of worrying about whether they're thinking about you, you're channeling that energy into your own growth. You're hitting the gym, learning a new skill, or excelling at work. When they see you thriving without them, it challenges their perception. Suddenly, you're not the person they left, you're someone stronger, more confident, and undeniably magnetic. At this point, you might be wondering, does this actually work? The answer lies in psychology. People are drawn to strength and independence. When you demonstrate that you're not dependent on their approval, it creates a sense of intrigue. They start to question their own decisions and wonder if they underestimated you. This is the turning point where the power dynamic begins to shift. Now let's bring this back to Stoicism. One of the most powerful lessons from Stoicism is the idea of focusing only on what you can control. You can't control their actions or decisions, but you can control your response. Instead of chasing, you can choose to step back. Instead of over-explaining, you can let your actions speak for you. This isn't just a tactic, it's a mindset. It's about living with intention and purpose, regardless of their behavior. Let me ask you this. How would it feel to wake up each day knowing that you're in control of your own happiness? That your worth isn't tied to whether or not they text back? This is the essence of reversing the power dynamic. It's about reclaiming your narrative and showing them and yourself that you're more than enough. Now, before we continue, I want to hear from you. If you're finding this video helpful so far, give it a like and drop a number 1 in the comments. It's a simple way to let us know that this resonates with you. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos on Stoic relationships, personal growth, and mastering the art of connection. Let's go deeper. What happens when they start to notice the change in you? When they reach out or try to reestablish the dynamic on their terms? This is where the real test of your growth begins. It's tempting to fall back into old patterns, to over-explain, overgive, or rush to reestablish closeness. But remember, the goal isn't to go back to what wasn't working. It's to create a new, healthier dynamic. When they reach out, approach it with calm and composure. Don't rush to respond. Take your time to assess their intentions. Are they genuinely interested in rebuilding, or are they simply reacting to the shift in power? This is where Stoicism becomes your anchor. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Imagine this scenario. They message you after weeks of silence. Instead of replying immediately or expressing relief, you respond with a simple, thoughtful message. No drama, no overexcitement, just calm. This response communicates that you're in control, that you've grown, and that you're no longer the same person they took for granted. And that's powerful. Reversing the power dynamic isn't about winning or losing. It's about creating a relationship dynamic that's balanced, respectful, and fulfilling. It's about showing them that you're not afraid to walk away if necessary because you know your worth. And here's the truth. When you truly embody this mindset, they'll sense it. They'll see the change in you, and it will make them question everything. So where do you go from here? The journey doesn't end when they come back. It's about continuing to grow both individually and as a partner. It's about maintaining the balance you've worked so hard to create. And most importantly, it's about staying true to yourself. Take a moment to reflect. What would your life look like if you fully embraced this mindset? How would your relationships change if you prioritized your own growth and self-worth above all else? This is your opportunity to rewrite the narrative, to become the person they can't stop thinking about, not because you're chasing them, but because you've become someone worth chasing. Before we move on to the next step, I want to remind you to like this video if it's resonating with you. Drop a number 1 in the comments to show your support, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights on Stoic relationships and personal transformation. Together, we're building a community of strength, growth, and resilience. Let's keep going. Step 3. Build an unshakable inner self. Now that you've learned the power of emotional detachment and reversed the dynamic, it's time to focus on the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. Building an unshakable inner self is the foundation for long-lasting confidence, resilience, and attraction. When you prioritize your growth, your value becomes undeniable, not just to them, but to yourself. Let's start with this question. Who are you when the relationship fades? For many, the answer reveals a painful truth. They feel lost, incomplete, or even unworthy. But here's the thing. Your worth was never tied to them. It was always within you. Reclaiming that worth is the most powerful thing you can do, and it's at the core of Stoicism. Think about this. When you're emotionally dependent on someone else for validation, how much control do you really have? Not much. But when you invest in yourself, your growth, your goals, and your passions, you reclaim the driver's seat. This isn't just a feel-good idea. It's a transformational shift in how you approach life and relationships. Let's explore how you can build an unshakable inner self step by step. First, you must redefine your identity. Often when relationships consume us, we lose sight of who we are outside of that dynamic. Ask yourself, what makes me me? Is it your career, your creativity, your kindness, or your ambition? Write it down. These are the pieces of you that no one can take away. When you know your core, you become unshakable because your identity isn't tied to external approval. Next, let's talk about the power of self-improvement. There's something magnetic about a person who's constantly evolving. When you commit to bettering yourself, you send a clear message: I'm worth investing in. Whether it's getting in shape, learning a new skill, or advancing in your career, every small step you take towards self-improvement builds your confidence. And confidence isn't just attractive, it's contagious. Imagine this scenario. They see you 6 months from now, and you're thriving. You've hit new milestones, discovered new hobbies, and radiate positivity. How do you think they'd react? When someone sees you growing without them, it sparks curiosity and regret. They start wondering, did I underestimate them? Could I have been part of this amazing transformation? This is the power of focusing on yourself, not to prove anything to them, but to reclaim your own greatness. But building an unshakable inner self isn't just about external growth. It's also about internal mastery. One of the most powerful lessons in Stoicism is the ability to control your thoughts. As Epictetus famously said, you become what you give your attention to. If you're constantly dwelling on the past or their actions, you're giving away your energy. But when you shift your focus inward, you take back that power. Here's a practical exercise. Whenever you catch yourself overthinking about them, pause and redirect your thoughts to something productive. It could be a project you're working on, a goal you've set, or even a small act of self-care. Over time, this practice rewires your brain to prioritize your growth over your anxieties. Let's also discuss the importance of setting boundaries. A strong inner self doesn't just say yes to everything. It recognizes when to say no. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about protecting your energy and ensuring that your relationships are built on mutual respect. Ask yourself, what behaviors am I no longer willing to tolerate? Once you identify them, communicate them clearly and calmly. You might be surprised by how people respond when you assert your boundaries with confidence. Now, let's address the fear that often holds people back. Many are afraid that if they focus on themselves, they'll lose the connection altogether. But here's the truth. When you invest in your growth, you're not just attracting them back. You're attracting the right kind of relationships, ones built on mutual respect and admiration. And if they don't come back, that's okay too. You'll be better equipped to attract someone who truly values you. Take a moment to reflect on this. What kind of person do I want to become, with or without them? The answer to this question will guide your transformation. Whether it's becoming more confident, independent, or successful, every step you take in this direction strengthens your inner self. And when you reach a point where you're genuinely happy on your own, you become magnetic. Here's a story to illustrate this point. Imagine someone who was devastated after a breakup. At first, they focused all their energy on trying to win the other person back. But then, they made a decision to focus on themselves. They started exercising, advancing in their career, and pursuing passions they'd neglected. Months later, their ex reached out, but by then, they realized something powerful. They didn't need the relationship to feel whole. This transformation is what makes Stoic relationships so impactful. It's not about manipulation, it's about becoming the best version of yourself. But let's not stop there. How do you sustain this unshakable inner self? One way is through gratitude. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, your mindset shifts. Take a moment each day to list 3 things you're grateful for. It could be as simple as a sunny day, a supportive friend, or a personal achievement. Gratitude grounds you and reminds you that your happiness isn't tied to any one person. Another powerful tool is mindfulness. When you're fully present, you're less likely to be consumed by worries about the past or future. Consider incorporating mindfulness practices into your daily routine, whether it's meditation, journaling, or simply taking a few deep breaths when stress arises. These practices align perfectly with Stoicism, which teaches us to find peace within ourselves. Now, I want to hear from you. If you're finding value in this video, let us know by giving it a like and dropping a number 1 in the comments. It's a simple way to show your support and let us know we're on the right track. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can join us on this journey of self-discovery and growth. As we wrap up this section, remember, building an unshakable inner self is a lifelong journey. It's not about reaching perfection, it's about progress. Every step you take towards self-improvement strengthens your foundation. And when you're grounded in your own worth, you're not just attracting them back, you're transforming your life. So let me ask you one final question. Who will you become when you put yourself first? When you answer that question, you'll realize the incredible potential within you. Let's continue this journey together. Step 4. Use strategic kindness and withdrawal. If you've made it this far, you've already begun a profound transformation. You've mastered emotional detachment, flipped the power dynamic, and started building an unshakable inner self. Now we dive into a more nuanced but equally powerful strategy, the art of strategic kindness and withdrawal. This approach isn't about manipulation, it's about creating a rhythm that keeps the relationship dynamic alive, vibrant, and deeply intriguing. Let's begin with a question. How do you show affection without losing your independence? For many, the tendency is to go all in, constant kindness, overwhelming attention, and tireless efforts to please. While this might seem like the right thing to do, it often backfires. Too much kindness, given unconditionally, can be taken for granted. On the other hand, too little warmth can come across as cold and distant. The key lies in finding balance through intentionality and timing. Imagine this scenario. You've been distant working on yourself, and they suddenly reach out. What's your first instinct? Perhaps it's to flood them with affection, thinking, this is my chance to win them back. But here's the truth. Relationships are like fire. Too much fuel smothers the flame, too little lets it die. Strategic kindness and withdrawal allow you to stoke the fire without losing yourself in the process. First, let's unpack strategic kindness. This isn't about being fake or calculated, it's about offering genuine moments of warmth at the right time. Kindness is powerful, but only when it's unexpected and meaningful. Think about the last time someone surprised you with a thoughtful gesture. How did it make you feel? Chances are it stood out because it wasn't constant or predictable. When you're kind with intention, it creates an emotional connection that lingers. For instance, if they've been distant and you suddenly send a simple, thoughtful message, "Hey, I remembered you loved this song, thought you'd enjoy it," it stands out. Why? Because it's not part of an overbearing pattern. It's a deliberate act of care that shows you're paying attention without chasing. But here's the critical follow-up. After kindness comes withdrawal. Withdrawal isn't about punishing them or playing games, it's about creating space. When you pull back slightly after showing kindness, it gives them room to reflect. They start to wonder, why did they do that? What are they thinking now? This creates intrigue, a powerful emotional hook that deepens their interest. Let's dive deeper into the psychology behind this approach. People are wired to crave what they can't fully predict. It's a phenomenon called intermittent reinforcement, a concept often discussed in psychology. When you alternate between warmth and distance, you create a dynamic that keeps them emotionally engaged. It's not about manipulation, it's about fostering genuine curiosity and appreciation. But how do you balance kindness and withdrawal without falling into unhealthy patterns? It starts with being attuned to your intentions. Ask yourself, am I doing this to get a reaction or because it aligns with my values? If your actions come from a place of authenticity, they'll resonate. If they're rooted in insecurity or desperation, they'll feel hollow. Here's an example. If you've been distant and they initiate contact, respond with kindness but avoid overindulgence. A simple, heartfelt message, "It's nice to hear from you. Hope you're doing well," is enough. Afterward, resist the urge to follow up or overanalyze. Let the moment speak for itself. By doing so, you maintain your composure and give them the space to process. Now, let's talk about timing. The effectiveness of this strategy lies in its unpredictability. If kindness always follows a specific pattern, it becomes expected. Instead, vary your actions. One day you might send a kind message. The next you focus entirely on yourself, withdrawing your attention. This ebb and flow mirrors the principles of Stoicism, where balance and moderation reign supreme. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Do not be overheard complaining about life, not even to yourself." This Stoic principle reminds us to act with intention and restraint. When you practice strategic kindness and withdrawal, you're not complaining or reacting impulsively, you're creating a thoughtful rhythm that aligns with your values. But let's address the elephant in the room. Doesn't this sound manipulative? The answer lies in your mindset. If you're using these techniques to control or harm someone, then yes, it's manipulative. But if your goal is to foster mutual respect and genuine connection, this strategy becomes a tool for deeper understanding. It's about showing that you value both yourself and the relationship enough to approach it thoughtfully. Consider this. When you pull back after showing kindness, what message are you sending? You're telling them that while you care, your life doesn't revolve around them. This balance is crucial in Stoic relationships. It communicates self-respect and invites them to step up rather than taking your presence for granted. Let me ask you this. How would your relationships change if you mastered the balance between giving and withdrawing? How might they view you differently if your kindness felt deliberate rather than obligatory? These questions highlight the transformative power of this approach. Here's a practical challenge for you. Over the next week, practice one act of strategic kindness. It could be a small gesture, like sending a thoughtful message or doing something considerate without expecting anything in return. Then follow it with withdrawal. Focus on your own life and let the gesture stand alone. Observe their reaction. You might be surprised by the depth of their response. Now, as you reflect on this, take a moment to show your support. If you're finding value in this video, give it a like and drop a number 1 in the comments. It's a simple way to let us know this content is resonating with you. And if you're ready for more insights on Stoic relationships and personal growth, make sure to subscribe. We're building a community of strength, wisdom, and resilience, and we'd love to have you join us. As we wrap up this step, remember, strategic kindness and withdrawal aren't about playing games. They're about creating a dynamic that respects both your individuality and the connection you share. When practiced with intention, this approach deepens the relationship while preserving your self-worth. So here's my final question for this section. Are you ready to master the art of giving without losing yourself? If the answer is yes, then you're already on the path to transformation. Let's keep going. Are you ready for step 5? Step 5. Master the silence. Silence. It's simple, powerful, and often misunderstood. In relationships, silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's a strategy, a form of communication, and a tool for transformation. When used wisely, it has the power to reset dynamics, inspire reflection, and rebuild respect. But how can you master silence without it being mistaken for indifference or rejection? Let's explore. First, consider this. Why do we fear silence in relationships? For many, silence feels like a void, a signal of disconnection. This fear often drives people to over-communicate, over-explain, or chase for validation. But what if silence could be reframed? Instead of seeing it as a threat, think of it as an opportunity, a chance to pause, reflect, and regain control. The power of silence lies in its ability to create space. When someone steps back, it forces the other person to step forward. This dynamic is rooted in human psychology. Think about the last time you experienced radio silence from someone you cared about. How did it make you feel? Chances are you found yourself wondering about them, questioning their absence, and perhaps even missing them. This is the power of silence. It compels reflection and often reignites curiosity. Now let's tie this concept to Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, wrote, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak." In relationships, this wisdom reminds us that silence isn't passive, it's intentional. It allows us to observe, to understand, and to act with purpose rather than impulse. Silence is not about shutting someone out. It's about creating a pause that allows both you and them to recalibrate. So how do you apply this in your relationships? Start by recognizing when silence is most effective. For example, if you've been the one initiating conversations or resolving conflicts, step back. Allow them to reach out. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about giving them the space to realize the absence of your presence. Silence can act as a mirror, reflecting their own actions and feelings back to them. But silence isn't just about pausing communication. It's also about mastering your internal dialogue. When was the last time you sat in silence with your own thoughts? Instead of spiraling into worry or overthinking their behavior, use this time for self-reflection. Ask yourself, what do I truly want from this relationship? Am I acting out of love or fear? This self-awareness is key to approaching the relationship from a place of strength rather than insecurity. Imagine this scenario. You've been texting them frequently, trying to maintain the connection. One day you stop. You give them space, not out of spite, but out of respect for yourself and for them. Days go by, and they begin to notice your absence. The messages they used to take for granted are no longer there. Slowly, curiosity sets in. They start to wonder, why haven't they reached out? Are they okay without me? This shift in dynamic is where silence becomes powerful. But let's address a common fear. What if they don't respond to my silence? The truth is, silence isn't about controlling their reaction. It's about reclaiming your power. If they don't respond, it's a sign that their level of investment might not match yours. And while this can be painful, it's also liberating. It gives you the clarity to move forward, either by strengthening the relationship or by focusing on yourself. Silence also plays a crucial role in resolving conflicts. When emotions run high, words can often do more harm than good. In these moments, silence acts as a buffer, allowing both parties to cool down and reflect. Instead of reacting impulsively, take a step back. Let the silence create space for understanding. When you do return to the conversation, approach it with calmness and clarity. This measured response demonstrates maturity and self-control, qualities that are deeply aligned with Stoicism. Here's another question to consider. How do you handle silence when it's directed at you? For many, being on the receiving end of silence can feel like rejection. But Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our own reactions. Instead of chasing or filling the void with unnecessary words, use this time to strengthen your inner self. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Now let's talk about the impact of silence on attraction. When someone is always available, their presence becomes predictable. But when silence is introduced, it disrupts this pattern. It creates a sense of mystery and intrigue. Suddenly, they're no longer sure where they stand with you, and this uncertainty can reignite their interest. Silence, when balanced with kindness, sends a powerful message. I value myself enough to step back when needed. But let's be clear. Silence isn't about manipulation or punishment. It's about creating a healthy balance in your relationship. It's about respecting both your needs and theirs. When used intentionally, silence fosters growth, reflection, and mutual understanding. It allows you to reset the dynamic and approach the relationship with a renewed sense of clarity. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you feel the urge to over-communicate, pause. Take a deep breath and remind yourself of your worth. Instead of texting or calling, channel your energy into something productive. A workout, a hobby, or time with friends. This not only distracts you from the immediate impulse, but also reinforces your independence. Let's pause for a moment. If this concept of mastering silence resonates with you, take a second to like this video and drop a number 1 in the comments. Your feedback helps us know we're on the right track, and it allows us to keep creating content that empowers you. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can join us for more insights on Stoic relationships and personal transformation. As we wrap up, remember this. Silence is not the absence of action, it's a deliberate choice. It's a way to reset, to reflect, and to rebuild. When you master silence, you're not just creating space for them to miss you, you're creating a foundation for a stronger, healthier connection. So let me ask you this. How will you use silence to transform your relationships? When you embrace its power, you'll discover a new level of confidence, clarity, and control. Let's take this journey together. Would you like to revisit any part of the process, or should we dive into the final reflections? You've reached the final part of this transformative journey, a journey that has equipped you with 5 powerful strategies to shift the dynamic in your relationships. Let's take a moment to reflect on everything you've learned. The art of emotional detachment, reversing the power dynamic, building an unshakable inner self using strategic kindness and withdrawal, and mastering the silence. Each of these steps is designed not to manipulate, but to empower you to regain control of your life, your emotions, and your relationships. But here's the ultimate truth. This process isn't just about making them come back. It's about creating a better version of yourself. When you prioritize your own growth and happiness, you not only become more attractive to others, you also discover that you don't need external validation to feel whole. Let's start with a question. How has your perspective on relationships changed throughout this journey? Perhaps you've realized that desperation, chasing, and overgiving only weaken your position. Or maybe you've discovered the power of stepping back, focusing inward, and allowing the natural flow of relationships to unfold. Whatever your takeaway, it's clear that these Stoic principles and insights into human psychology can transform how you approach love, connection, and even heartbreak. Imagine how these strategies will shape your future. Picture yourself as someone who radiates confidence and composure, who doesn't react impulsively but instead acts with intention. This is the essence of Stoicism, finding strength within and focusing on what you can control. And when you embody this mindset, you don't just become someone worth loving, you become someone worth admiring. But let's be honest, implementing these strategies isn't easy. There will be moments when you feel the urge to slip back into old habits, to chase, to overthink, or to react emotionally. In those moments, remind yourself of the bigger picture. Ask yourself, am I acting out of fear, or am I staying true to my values? This single question can anchor you and help you navigate even the most challenging situations with grace. As you move forward, remember that relationships are not a game of power, they're a partnership. These strategies aren't about dominating or controlling someone else. They're about creating balance, mutual respect, and a dynamic where both parties feel valued and appreciated. If they do come back, it's because they've recognized your worth. And if they don't, it's because you found the strength to walk away with your dignity intact. Let's also address an important point. Not every relationship is meant to be rekindled. Sometimes the best outcome is the clarity to move on and focus on building healthier connections in the future. This is why these strategies are rooted in personal growth. By becoming the best version of yourself, you naturally attract people who align with your values, your goals, and your sense of self-worth. Now let's take a moment to focus on you. What's the next step in your journey? Maybe it's committing to emotional detachment, setting boundaries, or pursuing a new passion. Whatever it is, start today. Don't wait for someone else to validate your worth. As the Stoics teach us, true strength comes from within. And now let me ask for your input. If this video has resonated with you, take a moment to like it and drop a number 1 in the comments. Let us know which strategy has had the biggest impact on you, or share your own experiences with reclaiming control in relationships. Your feedback not only helps us create better content, it also builds a community of people who are committed to growth, resilience, and empowerment. Before we wrap up, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel. By doing so, you'll gain access to more insights on Stoic relationships, personal development, and mastering the art of connection. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Together, we're building a space where you can find strength, clarity, and support on your journey. Finally, let me leave you with this. Relationships are a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. When you prioritize self-love, self-respect, and self-growth, you set the tone for how others treat you. And when you operate from this place of strength, you don't just attract people, you inspire them. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Remember, this is just the beginning. The power to transform your relationships and your life is in your hands. Until next time, stay strong, stay true to yourself, and keep striving for the best version of you.